babae.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Ray Bay Dive Show. Go ahead and grab a seat and make sure everyone behind you can also see. And if you take any pictures or videos of our diver Olivia, just make sure your flash is completely off. Well, welcome to the Dive Show. My name is Alicia. I'm an educator here at Ripley's Aquarium of Canada. And I'll be telling you about the tank while our diver Olivia does the feeding. So let's go ahead and give her a wave. For those of you sitting in the front, she can definitely see you really well. So we do a feeding of this exhibit every single day, 2 times a day at 12:15 and then once again at 10:15 and then once again at 2:15. So this is our second feeding of the day. And you'll see that our stingrays are really excited. They definitely know what's going on. Every time a diver goes in the water, they know that it's feeding time, so they are really good at a wall feed, which is what Olivia's doing right now. So each week we get about 800 pounds of restaurant quality seafood. A big chunk of it goes into Dangerous Lagoon, but a big chunk of it also goes in Ray Bay, which this exhibit is. It's actually the second largest exhibit in the entire aquarium, and like most of the tanks, it is 100% salt water coming in at a little over 400,000 liters of water, so it's a pretty big exhibit. We also have about 60 stingrays in this exhibit, but we have 4 different species, which I'll mention in a second. You may be wondering when Olivia feeds them, how do they even know how to eat? Their eyes are on the top of their heads, and as you can see, their mouths are on the bottom of their heads. They use this really cool sense called electroreception. We have about 5 senses. Stingrays actually have 6, and electroreception is just basically sensing things in the water. When Olivia comes down, they can actually sense her heartbeat, and they know that something living is in the water. They have sensors all around their mouths, chemo and electroreceptors that help them sense live prey in the wild. So when Olivia feeds them up against the wall, she's kind of stimulating their electroreception, moving the prey around in her hand, and they sense her heartbeat, and they know that something living is there. Also, over here, you'll see Olivia feed our cow-nose rays at the bottom. And I do want to start with our cow-nose rays. We have about 30 of them. They're the really small ones, the smallest ones in this exhibit. And we have a combination of males and females. And they're called cow-nose rays because of the way their noses are shaped. They're actually shaped like cow noses, which is why they have the name. And when they come up to a wall, or even when Olivia feeds them, you'll see they kind of open their mouths. And it almost looks like they have 2 sets of mouths. This is actually a special thing that only they have. It's called a modified fin. And it's to help them dig in the sand so they can hide from predators, but also to look for prey. Like I mentioned, they have all their sensors near their mouths, so when they're kind of digging in their sand, they're using their sensors to search for living fish, living prey, things that they can eat. We do have a combination of males and females, and sometimes we do have babies. Last year, I think we had about 4 cow-nose babies be born. And when they're born, we actually keep them in the shallow end. We have a little area that's fenced off. It's called a nursery. And we keep them in there for about 1 or 2 months until they're old enough to be moved, and we'll move them to a different exhibit. I think the ones that we have here are now in our Myrtle Beach facility, which is in South Carolina. So along with the cow-nose rays, we have these big ladies down here, which are called our southern stingrays. The cow-nose rays are about 60 pounds, and these southern stingrays are closer to 150. So they are much bigger. I do believe we have 8 of them in this tank right now, but they are all females. Unlike the cow-nose rays, when they have babies, it's not one at a time. They're not pregnant for about 10 months. They're pregnant for about 4 months. And they will have 12 to 15 pups at a time. So that's a lot of babies for this tank to handle. That's why we only have female southern stingrays. We want to make sure that we're not having 12 to 15 babies every 4 months. We want to make sure all the stingrays have enough food, space, resources to go around. But our southern stingrays are really friendly. I only know a couple of their names, but my favorite one is probably Wilma. She comes to the surface a lot, and she definitely likes to swim up there. If you do get a chance to touch them, I would highly recommend it. So we have our southern stingrays, we have our cow-nose rays. I do want to mention a stingray that looks like our big southern ladies, but is a little different. They're called our rough-tail rays. So if you see a really big stingray with kind of a shorter tail, that's one of our rough tail rays. He's in the back, I think, with Olivia. She's probably feeding him, but his name is Mad Max. And he is definitely our oldest, one of our biggest, coming in at about 260 pounds. So he is very, very big, very, very old. And our rough tail rays are very similar to our southerns, but they are a little different just because they're bigger and they also have more of these kind of thorns along their backs called dermal denticles. And it's just to kind of help them hide in the sand. If they're hiding, the sand won't really slide off their backs as much. It'll stay there, so they're very good at camouflaging. But we have two rough tail rays. One of them is Mad Max. And then his brother now, but if another stingray is there and he wants them to go away, we create a lot of wave motion to kind of tell them, go away, this is my spot, I want to go back to sleeping. And if you do go in the tunnel, Dangerous Lagoon, you can kind of see into this exhibit, and you'll be able to see Super Ray and where he's sleeping. So we talked about kind of all the stingrays except for one, which is my favorite stingray. It's called a spotted eagle ray. So raise your hand if you guys have ever seen Finding Nemo before. Okay, good. A lot of people have seen Finding Nemo. So a spotted eagle ray is Mr. Ray in Finding Nemo, and Mr. Ray was a teacher for all the fish, which makes a lot of sense because our spotted eagle rays are the most intelligent type of stingray that we have in this exhibit. They're kind of bluish, grayish, and they have white spots. We have 3 of them in this tank, and you may not see them down here right now because we actually feed them in the shallow end. Because if we were to feed them in the deep end, they are so smart. They would probably steal food from the other stingrays, and we don't want that. We want to make sure everyone gets a chance to eat. But our aquarists actually do a cool way of feeding them called target training. So if you ever have a dog and you tell them to touch something and then you give them a treat, it's kind of the same thing. Our aquarists will have a rainbow colored target in their hand. They'll tell our spotted eagle rays to do laps or kind of follow them around. And once they touch that rainbow target, they get some food, they get a treat, and this is how they get fed every single day, 2 times a day. So they're very, very good at it. And because they are so smart, we want to make sure that they're mentally stimulated. We don't want them to get bored, and they're very, very good at target training, which is also how we feed our sharks in Dangerous Lagoon. So we talked about all our different species of stingrays. I do want to talk about what makes a stingray a stingray. So there are a couple things. When they come up to the wall during the wall feed, you may have noticed their teeth function, and they don't really have teeth like sharks or other fish or things that you might think. They have these things called flat grinding plates. So kind of just like rows and rows of plates that when they eat a lot of food, they crush them. It's because a lot of the things they eat are like shellfish or things with hard shells. They need to be able to crush their food. If you did have an invited stingray, it would probably feel like getting your finger caught in a car door. It wouldn't feel good, but it also wouldn't feel like a bite that you might expect. They also have a and they're really, really good at finding fish below them. So along with their teeth, they also have something called a barb or a venomous stinger, which I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar with. All the stingrays in this exhibit actually have their barbs removed or filed down. It does take about 4 to 6 months for it to grow back, so each time we file them down, we have to wait 6 months and then we file them down again. There are a couple reasons that our stingrays just don't need them. One, it is their last resort defense mechanism. In the wild, they pretty much will just swim away from whatever predator they see coming. They can swim about 45 kilometers an hour in water, which is very, very fast. So they don't really need to use their barb. You'll actually see one of our spotted, or 2 of our spotted eagle rays are coming down in the deep end looking for food, but Olivia's really good about giving them a little nudge and telling them to go back to the shallow end. That's Hermione, she's what our female spotted eagle rays, and then the other ones are Harry and Ron. So they've been together for a really, really long time. But there is a tank right behind you guys, the freshwater stingray exhibit. If you did want to see what an intact barb or stinger looks like, it's just a small form right above their tails. Some stingrays even have multiple barbs to help protect themselves, but it is kind of a last resort thing that they will use in the wild because they have to wait 6 months for it to grow back and they don't want to be left defenseless. A lot of people also ask me, stingrays and sharks, do they get along? Because we did use some sharks in this exhibit. Now they're in shark breed. But the reason that they do get along is because they're part of the same family. In the wild, sharks and rays will live together pretty harmoniously. And they're all part of the same family called elasmograys. So do me a favor, touch your nose, touch your ear, give it a little squeeze. The soft part of that is called cartilage. And the reason why sharks and stingrays are part of the same family is because their skeletons are made out of this soft stuff called cartilage. Our skeletons are made out of calcium, which is super hard. It keeps us upright, it keeps us walking. That's not the case for these guys. Since their skeletons are so soft and kind of flexible, it helps them swim in the water. It's why they look so lightweight, kind of majestic when they swim. It's because of their soft cartilagenic skeletons. So sharks and stingrays both have them, and that's why they're part of the same family. Some people ask me, are sharks or stingrays pretty docile? Are they friendly? The answer is yes. These guys love to be touched. When you go up and you get a chance to touch them, keep your hands nice and still in the water, up to your wrist. And like I said, they can sense your heartbeat, your pulse in the water. So if they want to be touched, they'll actually swim under you. You can go ahead, give them a nice pat on their backs. Just avoid their eyes and their tails because they're a little sensitive. But sharks and stingrays exist pretty harmoniously in the wild. Unfortunately, a quarter of them are going extinct. And by these guys and them, I do mean both sharks, both stingrays. It's not always on purpose though. Sometimes fisheries will accidentally catch these guys in their nets and they won't always survive. But sometimes it is on purpose. Specifically for sharks, about 60 species of them are being harvested for their liver oil. So they have very fatty livers, and their oils, squalene, is found in a lot of makeup products, anti-aging creams. So if you do have any of those products, take a look and see if it says something called squalene in it. That's a shark byproduct. But of course, there is plant-based squalene, which is a great supplement. At Ripley's, we do want to promote education and conservation. So my challenge to you guys is when you go home today, just share something maybe you learned at the aquarium with someone who didn't come with you. It doesn't have to be about the stingrays. It could be from one of the designs that you read or about one of the other exhibits that you really like. But the idea is the more that you know about these guys, the more you're going to care about these guys. But other than that, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the feeding, and I'll be here to answer any of your questions. But thank you so much for listening.
Gutom pa. Ano lalagay niya, H? Ano mamulot ng basura?
Oo, yata. Hindi siya umahon.
Dumi siguro. Masya. Saan galing siya? Touch. Ha?